there is a conversation happening in your life right now, maybe at the dinner table, maybe in the group chat, maybe in the comment section of your own life, and it is either pulling you towards the person you're becoming or dragging you back to the person that you were. And the terrifying thing is that most people can't tell the difference because the relationships doing the most damage are rarely the ones that look obviously toxic. They're the ones that feel like home, the ones that have been there the longest, the ones where the love is real, but the ceiling is low. And every time you start to grow past it, something subtle happens, like a comment, a silence, a guilt trip, uh, maybe a joke at your expense that puts you right back in your place. You are the average of the people you spend the most time with. Not motivationally, neurologically. Your brain is constantly calibrating what's normal, what's possible, what's allowed based on the environment that it's immersed in, which means the people around you are not just company. They're input. They are data to your nervous system. Use it to decide who you get to be. And if that data is telling you to stay small, stay quiet, stay familiar, stay manageable, your brain will do exactly that. No matter how much you want something to be different. And this episode is about that, about the relationships that are keeping you in compliance, about the ones you need, about why being seen terrifies you, about why the rebellion at the most personal level is deciding that you are no longer available to shrink yourself to make other people comfortable. And welcome back. I'm Brandon Lynette. This is the Listen Bitch podcast. We are still in rebellion season. Rebellion season, season 10. The world is caving in around us, and we're going to give a middle finger up to everybody who doesn't care about us, even if it's personal. I hope people who feel everything deeply, who think differently and have been carrying potential that they haven't really fully stepped into yet, help them take radical responsibility for building a life that they want with God, co-creating, not around him. And we've been building the season one episode at a time. Episode 1 was about the truth as a daily practice. Episode 2 was about your body and the system keeping it sick. Episode 3 was about the money, the scarcity wound, and building wealth without selling your soul. This episode is about the people in your life and what they are quietly costing you. If you're new here, go back to the start from the beginning. It's going to say season 10. All of those are part of the rebellion because this season is a whole conversation and it builds. And if you've been here since episode 1, you already know what's coming. No soft edges, no sugarcoating bullshit, just the truth directly with enough grace to make it livable. I am looking for sponsors for the Listen Bitch podcast, brands that are aligned with health, sovereignty, truth, integrity, ethics, real brands for a real audience that takes action. So please reach out at brandonlynette.com. And we're going to talk about the room you've outgrown and why you keep going back. Most people don't leave the rooms they've outgrown all at once. It's we leave slowly in small ways while still showing up, maybe still showing up every Sunday, still answering every text, still performing the version of ourselves that the room was built for. Because the alternative is grief. And grief for a relationship, even one that's keeping you small, is real. It counts, and nobody wants to feel it. But this is what staying in these rooms costs you. Every time you walk back in there into a room that you've outgrown and you shrink yourself down to fit it, you send a message to your own nervous system saying, this is still who I am. This is still the ceiling. And this is still what's allowed. And your brain, which is always wired toward what you practice, it's always looking for the proof and the truth of what you do. It files that information accordingly. So the more you perform that old version of yourself, the more grooved, okay, this is science, bitch, okay, the more grooved that neural pathway gets, and the harder it becomes to get access to a new track, even when you're alone or even when you're trying, because you've just ingrained your default mode network to keep working and working and working. This isn't about cutting everybody off. It's not about burning your life down. I've done that. I don't recommend it. It's not about issuing a whole manifesto about your growth journey to your family group chat. It's about being honest. And that honesty, girl, it starts with you first. Being honest with yourself first about which relationships are asking you to become more and which ones, consciously or not, are asking you to become less. Because both kinds exist in everybody's life. And pretending you can't tell the difference is just another form of that people pleasing. And the rooms you've outgrown are not always bad places full of bad people. That's not what I'm saying. Sometimes they're full of people who love you genuinely and still don't have the framework to celebrate what you're becoming. Sometimes the information gets crossed, like the limitation that they have is not malice, it's fear. Their fear. The fear that if you change, the dynamic changes, the hierarchy shifts, and the version of you that they built their understanding of the relationship on, it stops existing. And that fear is theirs to walk through. You do not have to stay small to manage it. And I want to talk about energy vampires, about the relationships that aren't just limited, they're actively draining, because energy vampires rarely announce themselves. They don't show up with a warning label. They show up as the friend who only calls when they need something and then disappears when things are good for you. Or the family member whose approval you've been chasing your whole fucking life will never quite catching it. As the person who frames every conversation back to themselves and leaves you feeling inexplicably tired after an hour in their presence. As the one who consistently minimizes your wins, consistently escalates their problems into your emotional emergency, consistently makes you feel responsible for their state of being. And the defining characteristic of an energy vampire is not that they're mean, it's that the relationship is structurally one directional. You give, they receive. And the moment you stop giving at the level that they've come to expect, the moment you have a need of your own or a boundary or a limit, the dynamic gets uncomfortable fast. Suddenly, you're a selfish bitch. You've changed. You think you're better than everyone. You don't care about anybody anymore. And the guilt is deployed precisely to pull you back to the giving position. And you've been wired since childhood to believe that love means unlimited availability. And it works on you every fucking time. But there is a reality to this. You are not called to be endlessly pursued, poured out, and emptied for people who are unwilling to do their own work. That is not love. That is codependency, wearing a costume of compassion. Real love has a form. Real love tells the fucking truth. Real love sometimes says, I cannot carry this for you, not because I don't care, but because carrying it for you is keeping you from learning to carry it for yourself. Jesus loved people directly. He told them the truth. He didn't chase people who walked away. He didn't collapse into his calling, into the emotional needs of the people around him. He stayed grounded. He stayed purposeful, and he was fully present with people while also being able, being completely clear about who he was and what he was here to do. And that is the model, not limitless self-sacrifice, calling it virtue, but grounded, purposeful, truthful love. And that includes you in the equation, loving yourself. Then we have a social media death trap here, and it's called comparison. And the comparison trap has always existed, like from the beginning of time. But social media has turned it into a 24-hour immersive experience and put it in everybody's fucking pocket. And here's what the highlight reel actually is. It is a curated performance of someone's best moments, most flattering angles, biggest wins, and most aspirational aesthetics. Edited, filtered, strategically timed, and presented as a window into life when it is actually a billboard for one. And your brain, your beautiful brain, which evolved to compare itself to others as a survival mechanism, cannot fully distinguish between a real social environment and a digital one. So it takes that highlight reel at face value. It compares your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel, and it concludes over and over, thousands of times a day, that you are behind, that you are less, that everyone else has figured shit out that you haven't. They know the fucking secret. And I am telling you today that conclusion is a lie. But your nervous system doesn't know it's a lie. It just fills the gap between where you are and where the feed says everyone else is, and it interprets that gap as a threat. And a threatened nervous system does not create, it does not build, it does not make clear decisions, it contracts, it compares. It either chases the validation of performing its own highlight reel or retreats into resentment and paralysis. And neither one is going to move you forward into your God-given potential. The comparison trap is also one of the primary weapons deployed against your calling specifically. Because the moment you start building something real, you will inevitably encounter someone who appears to be further along, doing better, with more followers, more money, more everything, and the wound will use that to argue that you should stop. That's the devil, bitch. He's gonna tell you that the space is too crowded, that you're too late, that what you have to offer has been offered by someone more polished and better positioned, someone prettier, someone who can speak better, someone with a better equipment, whatever it is. Again, it's another lie. They dress it up as common sense, but it's designed to keep you in the audience instead of on the field. I want you to understand that. The devil does not want you in the battlefield. The government, big pharma, big food, big data, they want you sick and stuck in your phone thinking that the lies are true. But I'm telling you right now, the real truth is that nobody else has your combination of experience or perspective or your voice, your calling. Nobody. Nobody in the fucking world. And the person who needs to hear what you have to say is not going to hear it the same way from anyone else. That comparison is not just unproductive, it is a category error. You are not competing with anyone. You are becoming the most fully expressed, unapologetic version of yourself. And that is a race of one. Then we have the fear of visibility, being seen, being judged, being too much. And this is the one that lives underneath all of the others that I just talked about. The one that the comparison trap actually feeds on. The one that makes people shrink in rooms that they've outgrown and stay in relationships that keep them small. The fear of being fully visible, not just seen, I'm saying fully seen. The version of you that has opinions, that takes up space, that builds things, that charges real money, that speaks with authority, that leads and disagrees, says no, shows up without apology. That version of you is terrifying to put in the world because the world has opinions. People will have something to say. Some of them will say it directly to your face, and some of them will say it in a comment section. Some of them will send it in your inbox. And I would like to say I've had an incredible break of not having an influx of hate mail lately. And last week, because I talked about the fact I'm anti-abortion, a lot of people came out of the woodwork. Tons of go kill yourself messages again. They're going to be there. They're going to say the things. And they're going to say it and whisper it in rooms that you're never going to be in. It's going to happen. And if you've spent your life being told directly or indirectly that being too much is the cardinal sin, that version of you has been locked in a room for a long time waiting for permission that never comes. The fear of visibility is not really about judgment. Judgment's the mechanism, but it's not the root. The root is the original experience of being fully yourself, fully loud, fully expressive, fully present, and having that met with correction. And I've spent my whole life just being too much in all of these places and with everybody in my life, everybody until now. Whether it's they're shushing you or the looks that tell you to tone it down, calm down, make yourself smaller, you're making people uncomfortable. You're making me uncomfortable. And because you needed the people who sent that message because belonging and safety were tied to their approval, you learned exactly what they wanted you to learn. So you got quiet, you edited, you developed an internal sensor so efficient you sometimes can't hear your own real thoughts anymore because the edited version comes out automatically. And listen, bitch, that sensor is not protecting you. It protected the child who needed to belong. You are not that child anymore. You are someone with a calling, with a voice, and something real to say. And the world does not need the edited version of you. It needs the real one, the one that God told it was too much and turns out was exactly enough. And there is some neurological reality of this visible fear because the brain treats social threat the same way it treats physical threat. Being judged activates the same stress response as being in danger, which means putting yourself out there, posting the content, charging the price, starting the business, having the hard conversation, standing fully in your own identity, speaking that biblical truth. All of that is going to feel physically uncomfortable. Your heart's going to beat faster. Your hands are going to sweat. Your thoughts are going to race. Your stomach is going to tighten. And your brain is going to present that discomfort as evidence that you should stop. It is not evidence. It is a sensation. It is temporary. And sensation is survivable. Every person you admire who is doing something visible and real went through that sensation. I go through it every time I hit post. And I do it anyway. I hit post. Everybody you see doing the thing, they're doing it all the time, continuously. I want to make it very clear that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is just the decision that the calling is more important than the comfort. And there is a lot of praying, like, God, you have me, right? God has me, right? We're doing this, right? And send, upload, post. And I want to talk about the relationship you actually need. So let's kind of flip this because this episode isn't just about what's draining you. I want to talk about what you're building towards. You need people who have already been where you're going and not to worship them. Let me make that very clear. Not to copy them, but to normalize because your nervous system will only allow you to go where it believes is possible. And possibility is heavily influenced by proximity. When you spend time with people who have built the thing, who have done the hard work, who have made it through the season that you're in, and they are standing on the other side of it, your brain recalibrates. The ceiling automatically lifts. What felt impossible starts to feel like a matter of timing and execution rather than an impossible dream. You need people who tell you the truth, not people who perform positivity at you, who tell you everything is great and your work is amazing regardless of reality. That's bullshit toxic positivity. That is not support. It is just noise. You need people who love you enough to say that's not your best work. That decision doesn't make sense. You're self-sabotaging again. I think you're wrong about this. People whose honesty you trust because you know it comes from their investment in your actual growth rather than the investment in your comfort. And you need people who are in the work with you, who is in the arena with you right fucking now. Not just cheerleaders watching from the sideline. I'm saying people who are also getting their ass kicked, who are building something, who's taking responsibility, also committed to becoming rather than just existing. Iron sharpens iron. That is not a metaphor. It is a description of what real community does to your capacity, your standards, and your pace. The right people don't just make the journey more enjoyable, they make you better. And that community doesn't usually find you. I'm going to be honest. You have to build it deliberately by showing up in the spaces where those people are, by being someone worth knowing yourself, and by being willing to be the one who goes first, who is fully visible, fully real, fully committed to the work before there's a guaranteed audience for it. That is the vulnerability the calling requires. And it is also the exact thing that attracts the right people into your containers, into your space. So, how do we actually do all this? First thing is that I need you to do an honest audit. Not a dramatic one, right? We're not going 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. I just want you to do an honest, quiet audit. Think about the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And after you leave each of them, do you feel more like yourself or less? Do you feel more energized or more drained? Are you more clear about what you're building or more confused and contracted? I want you to write it down. You don't have to do anything with it. Just know what's true. And second, I want you to find one relationship where you've been shrinking. And I want you to stop shrinking. Once, one time, not a speech, not a confrontation. Just show up as the real version of you in one interaction where you would normally edit yourself down. And I want you to notice what happens. Notice whether the relationship can hold it. That information is worth more than an entire year of just wondering. And then put yourself somewhere new. A community, an event, an online space, a mentorship, somewhere that has people in it who are doing what you want to do or who are committed to the same kind of growth you're committed to. You cannot build the life you want with only the relationships you inherited, okay? You have to go find some of the ones you need. And for this visibility fear, I want you to start smaller than you think you need to and be more honest than you think is safe, okay? One piece of content, one conversation where you say the real thing instead of the safe thing, one moment where you let yourself be fully seen without immediately managing how it lands. The permission you've been waiting for is not coming from outside. It will, it's always been inside of you and it's always been yours to give. So, bitch, I think we're 4 episodes in, and this one might be kind of the most personal one yet because the relationships in your life are not just context, they're architecture, right? They are building the person you're becoming every single day, whether you're paying attention or not. If this episode cracks something open, if you recognize a room that you've been staying in for too long or a relationship that's been costing you more than you've admitted, a version of yourself you've been hiding to keep the peace, do not let that recognition evaporate. Write it down, sit with it, let it mean something. And then I need you to like the show, subscribe, and leave a written review. Less than 2 minutes, it's all it takes. Okay? Real impact. If you don't want to leave a review, then go to listenbitchdonations.com and leave $1 and just say, I'd rather pay $1 than leave a review. Review is free, okay? But those reviews are literally how people who need this conversation find it. And there are people right now who need exactly this that I won't be able to find without your help. Head to brandonlynette.com and get into everything happening this season. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Watch the full video version of the episode. I feel like the visual layer probably adds something the audio alone doesn't have. You were not built to be managed by other people's comfort. You were built to be fully visible, unapologetically yourself, and to build something real from that place. The rebellion is refusing to wait any longer to start.